You probably think you know the story of Jonah, a satirical tale about a prophet who falls into the ocean and gets swallowed by a whale. It was a whale, right? So why do some translations say sea monster? Well, in this video, we're going to find out.
Jonah and the whale.
The real-life Jonah.
God sent a great fish to swallow Jonah.
Got eaten up by a giant whale.
Swallowed by a whale.
What's the book of Jonah about? It's about a guy and a fish.
In Matthew's Gospel, when Jesus retells the story of Jonah, several reliable English translations read that Jonah was in the belly of a sea monster. In addition to the Gospels, early Christian art like this sarcophagus dating to around 300 CE depicts Jonah being swallowed by a dragon-like monster, not a whale. So how did we get from whale to sea monster? To figure it out, let's start with the Hebrew. The sea creature described in the Hebrew book of Jonah is called a dag gadol. Dag means fish and gadol means great or large. So most English translations render it as large fish. But before you pull out your fish encyclopedia and start asking what kind of fish could have swallowed Jonah, the ancient Hebrew language didn't actually have a separate word for whale. When the Hebrew Bible was translated into Greek, the Septuagint, the Greek translators made an interesting choice. Greek typically used the word ichthys for fish and phalaina for spouting whales, but the translators used neither of these words. Instead, the Hebrew dag gadol, or great fish, became katai megalo in Greek. Megalos, as you can probably guess, means large. The Hebrew dag, which meant fish, became the Greek Ketos, which can refer to any large sea creature. But it was also used for mythical creatures, like Leviathan or those found in Greek mythology. The categories of big fish, whale, and sea monster, which we might distinguish, overlapped in the ancient world. To illustrate this, let's look at one of the most famous whales in ancient times. It even had a name: Porphyrios. Porphyrios terrorized sailors by sinking ships off the coast of Constantinople for 50 years. Emperor Justinian even ordered its capture, though he lacked any means by which to do so. Porphyrios' reign of terror would eventually end when it wound up beached on the shore. It was measured at 15 meters long and was probably either a blue, fin, or sperm whale. The word used to describe Porphyrios was ketos. So a ketos was not only the stuff of legend, it was also used for whales. This overlapping of categories might be explained by the fact that whales were not particularly well understood in the ancient world. There is actually no surviving ancient artistic depictions that accurately resemble a whale. Whales took on mythological qualities, giving them snaky bodies, scales, horns, or tusks. In comparison, other sea creatures like dolphins and octopi, are depicted rather accurately. Sometimes Ketos were depicted as fish-like, as in this 8th century BC artwork of drowned sailors being swallowed by Ketos, or this later Roman sarcophagus depicting Jonah being swallowed by a large fish. At other times, they took on the look of a dragon-like sea monster, such as the Ketos of Troy. The fact is, whales were not well understood, and for ancient people, they blurred the line between nature and myth. And this makes sense if you think about it. The sightings of large whales in the Mediterranean were a rarity, and from a distance, and with no reliable method of catching such a creature, they would only have been seen up close briefly when they were beached and decomposing. So the Hebrew author of the satirical folktale, Jonah, may have been referring to a whale in the story, but it's also likely that an ancient audience's understanding of what a whale was crossed over into the territory of mythological beasts. It's little surprise then that the Greek translators chose Ketos, which captures the ambiguity of what this creature was intended to be. The story of Jonah actually shares some very interesting similarities to other ancient sea monster myths. Jonah set out from a town called Joppa before he was swallowed by the whale. However, in Greek legend, Perseus rescues Andromeda from a sea monster, having also set out from Joppa. Josephus described Joppa as perilous to ships and sailors. We can only guess, but perhaps the perilous waters served as inspiration for these sea monster myths. The Greek historian Pliny the Elder claimed that the skeleton of Andromeda's sea monster was taken from Joppa to Rome in the 50s BCE. One scholar suggests that the remains of a whale were likely found in Joppa and interpreted as Andromeda's sea monster, and later also Jonah's sea creature. The idea of being swallowed by a sea monster also isn't unique to Jonah. The Greek hero Herakles was also swallowed by a sea monster before he defeated it, a tale which may have inspired the writers of Disney. In the ancient world, the categories of big fish, whale, and sea monster overlapped, so it should come as no surprise that in ancient art, Jonah is depicted as being swallowed by a whole host of strange creatures. Ancient peoples certainly knew about whales, but the category of whale in the ancient world blurred the line between nature and mythology. So maybe Jonah was swallowed by a sea monster after all. If you've enjoyed the video, consider supporting the channel. Sources in the description. As always, my name's Lachlan and you've been watching Bible Unboxed.
Commandment number 11, share and comment below.